Okay. It says, recall, write an equation from the situation, then solve it. The quotient of x and 3 is equal to 15. What are the operational phrases here? The quotient of is equal to. So, when I see an of, I need to look for and. Do I see an and?
Yes.
So, I know that the quotient needs to be between what? X and, perfect. So, how do I write the quotient of x and 3? Oh, not quite. X over 3. Guys, there's no parentheses anywhere because where do we see an operation following another operation? We don't see that here, right? So, the quotient of x and 3 is x over 3. What comes after that? Equals 15. It told me to solve it. Remember, this was the first part. It says write the equation, then solve the equation. Some people did not do that on their notes from last week. Emmanuel, make sure you're leaning up, baby. Should I be telling you to do this at this point in the year? What do you have that you can grab?
A clipboard.
A clipboard. So if we need it, go and grab it. But remember, if I have to say something else after this, paperwork has to be done. And I don't like writing people up, but it's a necessary evil at this point.
Yeah.
Please hold yourself accountable. Remember, this is also recorded. So it's documentation that's happening live. I had a principal ask me, how do you know that a student is not following directions? I said, you know what's crazy? I record my lessons. And you can hear me reprimanding that student and redirecting him in almost every video since I started recording in that class. So you can go back and rewatch the videos. So that was proof and documentation because it's a lesson. And I upload lessons. Yeah. So if your name is called and it's right here, you just allowed me to document it.
Amen.
So if you know that you're prone to sleeping, I would put those arms down, I would put those sweaters down, I would have myself ready to go, sitting up straight, handling business. Because I've already talked to you, and I've already talked to your parent. There is no more communication between the two of us that needs to happen. I can just immediately write you up and send you on your way. Now, do I like doing it?
No.
No. But when I do it because it needs to happen.
Yeah.
So please lean up, sit up, pay attention, and don't make me have to redirect you. You know better than that.
Water or clipboard.
Water or a clipboard. Those are your two choices. And then it leads to,
Right up.
thank you. So we just solved an equation like this, did we not?
Yes.
So what's the step I need to do to solve this? Times 3 on both sides. You may. So what happens to those 3's there? So what's brought down? X equals, and what's being typed in? So type in 15 times 3, please. What'd y'all get?
45.
Any questions there? The difference of 7 and B is the same as 18. The difference of 7 and B is the same as 18. What are the operational phrases here? Is the same as. When I see an of, I'm looking for and. So how do I write the difference of 7 and B?
7 minus 3.
What comes after that?
Equals 18.
Thank you. And I forgot to put my 2 there because that's the second part of the answer. That's the first part. Second part tells me to solve it. So what's my first step to solve this 2-step equation? Minus 7 on both sides. What happens to the 7's? So what's brought down?
Negative 6.
Negative B. Equals. What's being typed in?
18 minus 7.
18 minus 7.
11.
Everybody agree? Am I done yet? So what do I need to do now? Divide by negative 1. You never divide by the actual variable because it has to stay over there on its own. What happens to our negative 1's? So what's being brought down? And then what's 11 divided by negative 1? Negative 11. Any questions there? Triple a number x plus 5 is 14.
Triple a number plus.
Anything else?
Is 14.
Is. Because if we were to look back at our notes from last week, didn't we say is another way to say equals?
Yes.
Sure did. So how do I write triple a number x?
3x
plus 5 equals 14.
Great. How do I solve that?
Minus 5 plus 5.
Agreed.
Yes.
So what's being brought down?
3x.
Equals. What's being typed in?
11
14 minus 5.
14 minus 5.
We still on the same side?
Yes, baby. We're still on the very first page, very first section. What's 14 minus 5? Then what do I do from there?
Divide 3 on both sides.
There we go. So what happens to the 3's? What's brought down?
X equals
What's 9 divided by 3?
3.
Any questions there? Now on to D. 17 less than the product of 5 and x is 33. What are the operational phrases?
Less than product of 8.
When I see an of, I'm looking for. So how would I write this?
17.
Not quite. Is that one special?
You gotta
Less
flip
than,
it.
flip it, yeah, flip it.
Because what word is there?
Less than
Than. So what needs to come first?
33.
Not quite.
33 equals
5.
X
Minus what?
17.
The 33 does not change its position. This side is its own side. When you see the equal sign, leave the equals 33 alone. You just change what's here. Does that make sense? Any questions? How do I solve this two-step equation?
17 on both sides.
What's being brought down?
5x
Uh-huh.
equals
And what's being typed in?
33 plus 17.
33 plus 17.
50.
Everybody agree? Then,
Divide 5 on both sides.
and that gets you.
X equals 2.
Any questions there? Now, what we're doing here is we're going to put them into actual situations, meaning real world problems. You ask, Ms. Lipsey, when can this be used outside of school? These kind of problems show you how you can set up scenarios that could happen outside of school logistically. So, example 1 says, Jim is going to GameStop to buy some new games to play. It will cost him $2 per game. He has $16. How many games can he play? For us to do this, we do something called the 3D process, where the first D is define, the second D is do, and the third D is decide. Hence why it's called the 3D process. Because there's 3 Ds in order to do an effective word problem efficiently. The first thing is we need to define key characteristics to help us define our actual variable that we're using. So what's important inside of this example that I need to know?
$2 per game.
$2 per game. Is there anything else?
16.
What about it?
Yeah, 16.
He has 16.
Thank you. You see how we had to add context? Don't just give me numbers because you're just going to be looking for numbers. Word problems need context. Do you listen to gossip without context?
No.
Do you listen to what people say without context?
No.
That's the problem. You need context or else you have no relevance. Does that make sense? What question's trying to be answered?
How many games can you buy?
So we're asking how many games. So if you see I highlighted something, you need to underline it. I made brackets here, which means bracket it. That's the question you're trying to answer. Define a variable. You can use any variable you want, but the default is typically X. And usually those who don't like to think of multiple variables put X. What should X represent in this scenario? What do you think?
Per game.
Games. Because that's the question you're trying to answer. I heard you say how many games. That's correct. The number of games. How do I set up the equation for this? Would 2 be a coefficient or a constant? A coefficient. What word tells me that? Per. Thank you. So how would I set that up?
2x plus
Nope. Because what is this actually?
equals 16.
It's a total.
So minus
No.
equals.
Equals. Because if he only has $16 and it's $2 per game, you're trying to figure out how many games he has. So, this says do. Do means to write and solve. This is the first part. That's the right part. So, how do I solve this equation?
Divide 2 on both sides.
Absolutely. That's the second part. So, what happens to those 2's? What's brought down?
X equals
And what's being typed in?
16 divided by 2.
Which is?
8.
But now I need to bring this over here and write it with correct units. Any word problem has units. What question was I trying to answer?
How many games?
So how would I translate x equals 8 into that? No, baby. How would I translate it? Not substitute. 8 games. That's it. If you write me a sentence, even better. Make sure it's capitalized with right punctuation. Then your English teachers might be a little bit jealous. Because I know y'all barely writing sentences up in there. Y'all barely like to speak them in here. So, any questions here? Does this make sense? Define, do, decide. So if you need to write that in, write that in. A is define. B is do. And C is decide. And this is how we do word problems effectively. When it's broken down into these 3 steps, people typically know what they're doing a lot easier. They're able to recall it a lot better, and it makes them more confident. Because come tomorrow, we're doing word problems with multiple items that will be missing. So which means knowing these basic steps will help you tremendously in our next lesson. Everybody good? Someone else read example 2. What's essential or important information?
John has $25
Uh-huh.
and $250 per hour.
For what?
It costs $2.
$2.50 per hour.
Thank you for the bike rentals. And what question are you trying to answer?
For how many hours can John work?
So, what variable do we want to use for our define? That's perfectly fine. What should X represent? Hours. How would I set up this equation?
2.50x equals 5.
There we go. How do I solve this? Thank you. Divide by 2.5 or 2.50 on both sides. So what's being brought down? X equals. What's being typed in?
25 divided by 2.5.
Thank you. Type in 25 divided by 2.5 or 2.50. Bless you. What'd you get? So how would I translate that with correct units? 10 hours. Any questions there?
No.
Okay. Move on to example number 3. Someone read this one for me. Mm-hmm. What's important information?
$50, spend $20,
Spent $20. Context.
on apples.
Plus in a unknown amount of water.
What question are you trying to answer?
How much does each watermelon cost?
So what variable are we using?
X,
That's fine. What should it represent?
watermelon.
More than that.
Oh wait,
The amount of water.
Each watermelon, how much is each watermelon?
just spent
The
$50.
cost of water.
Cost of watermelon. Robin, you were getting there. How would I set this up? Do I have a constant in this one? Why is 20 the constant? Will that ever change? No. It said she spent that much on apples. That's how much she spent on apples. So, we know that's the constant. Do we have a coefficient?
10.
10. Because that's how many watermelons she bought. We're looking for the cost. So how would I set this up?
20 plus 10.
That works. That works. If you put 10x plus 20 equals 50, that would still work as well. So, how would I solve this equation?
Minus 3 on both sides.
Absolutely. What's being brought down?
10x equals 30.
Everybody agree 30?
Yeah.
Then what do I do from there?
Minus 10 on both sides.
So what's being brought down?
X equals 3.
Does everybody agree with 3? So how would I write this using correct units?
3 watermelon.
No.
Oh wait, she spent
$3. It doesn't matter if you use a dollar sign or actually write out dollars. As long as the unit is there, that's all I care about. Any questions?
No.
Someone read number 4, please.
Sally bought 6 bottles of Coke. She spent a total of $18. How much did she spend on each bottle of Coke?
What's important?
bought 6 bottles.
Uh-huh.
Total of $18. And
What question are you trying to answer?
how much did she spend on each bottle?
So, what variable are we using?
Yes.
That's fine. I heard somebody trying to say C. If you put C in there, you can use C. That's fine. What would it represent? Cost of Coke. I'll put Cokes there, just to be a little bit safe. Sorry, anybody who's listening to this. But to each his own. How do I write this equation? Everybody agree?
Yes.
Because you're looking for the cost per Coke, you bought 6, so it has to be per, that's multiplication. So, how do I solve this?
Divide 6.
Robin, wake up, honey. Wake up, girl. What's being brought down?
X equals 3.
Do y'all agree with 3? How can y'all agree when y'all ain't typing it in? That's real ghetto. No, I looked around and I saw so many people, not you, Robin, necessarily. Dang, girl. Sir, you may. Make sure you're typing it in and you're following along. Does everybody agree with 3?
Yeah.
How do I write this? It with correct units.
$3.
$3. Any questions?
No.
So, someone read 5.
I got you.
Somebody else. I didn't heard you, Dawson.
Miguel.
Let Robin do it.
Miguel.
Miguel is 46 years old. He is 20 years old. Wait, what is that?
It's, you got it. You got it. Restart.
Miguel is 26 years old. He is 4 years older than 3 times his son's age. Find the age of his son.
There you go. What's important?
46 years old,
He is
4 years older, and then 3 times.
Uh-huh.
The son age.
Then,
And then the question, find the age of his son.
so what variable are we using?
Why?
Sure. What should y represent?
The age of
The age of
the son.
the sun.
Or just the age.
Age of sun. Because you're dealing with two different ages. So being able to distinguish which one you're working with is important and essential.
Yeah.
So how do I write this equation?
4.
Not quite.
Oh, wait.
So here's the thing. What does this say? What's the context of this?
4 years older than him. 4 years older.
So what's actually happening with this 4?
Wait, add.
You're adding it. Because when you say your mom is 10 years older than you, or 20 years older than you, or 30 years older than you, what are you doing with that age, with your age?
Just add it.
You're adding it. So say Robin was born 2 years prior to you guys. Y'all are what, 14, 15 years old. You would add 2 to whoever's age that you're comparing her to. When you say older than, you're not multiplying.
So it,
When have you ever heard someone say, I'm older than you, and you're doing multiplication? I just want everybody to let that sink in. Okay? So if you don't know that, you need to put a plus sign right there. That way you know 4 is a constant or coefficient.
No constant.
Constant, which means it's not changing. But what else?
It's 46 going to be the coefficient.
46 Y.
No, it's 4 plus 3x.
There we go.
You get the 3. Oh, I see. 3 times his son age.
Because this is the multiplication. That's multiplying. That's addition. Any questions there?
No.
That's how you would write it, or you can say 3y plus 4 equals 46. 46 equals 4 plus 3y. Does not matter as long as the constant is a constant, the coefficient is a coefficient. Any questions?
No.
How do I solve this?
Minus 4 on both sides.
There we go. What's being brought down?
3y.
Y equals 42.
Everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Don't take his word for it, Dawson. Type it in.
Yeah.
Stop saying yeah to everything. You ain't no sheep, child.
4 and 6.
What'd y'all do next?
Divide 3 on both sides.
Thank you.
I take his word.
You shouldn't.
I typed it in.
I'm told a lot of things, but I don't take their word for it. I do my own research.
46.
So what's being brought down?
Y.
Y equals 14.
Do y'all agree or disagree?
Agree.
Did you type it in?
No.
If you said no, you need to be typing it in. Nothing's more embarrassing than getting something wrong out loud. That's wild.
There.
How do I write the answer with correct units?
Y equals.
I take it.
What?
I mean, age of son.
What?
14.
14 what?
14 Y.
14 years old.
Thank you. What does Y represent?
Year.
No.
I mean age of son.
How old is the son?
14.
Come on now. Y'all a mess. I don't know what was going on.
Alright.
We found our way.
Devin.
Someone read 6.
Devin is raised of his age is 2 more than half the age of Stephen. Find the age of Stephen.
Y'all tell me what to do.
Devin is 12 years old. His age is 2 more than half the age of Stephen. And the question is, find the age of Stephen.
So, what variable are we using?
X.
That's fine. What does X represent?
Age of Stephen.
Age of Stephen. Or Stephen's age. How do I set up the equation?
2x.
No.
2 plus 1/2
1/2 x.
Yep.
equals 12.
It says 2 more than. Didn't we just do that on the last one? Be for real.
Yeah.
Half of means multiplying by a fraction.
You put 2 on the
What?
Do you put 2 behind the 12?
What's the first step?
I was just looking at it because I written down the price of how we see the other
The
one.
first step is minus 2.
The first step is -2 because that's the constant,
Oh,
and we need to get it away from the variable term.
oh. Then what
I don't know what you were referring to. It was quite confusing, so we pushed through. That's all that matters. You're trying. That's what I care about. What's being brought down? That's for everybody, not just him.
1/2
half
x equals 10.
Do y'all agree with 10?
Yes.
I don't know.
Then,
Yes.
what's 12 minus 2?
Look.
Yes.
Wait, what? Yeah.
No, I thought you
He's verifying the answer. What do I do from here?
using times 2 on both sides.
Times 2 on both sides. What happens to these
They
2's?
cancel out.
That one goes away. What's brought down?
X equals.
X equals, and then 10 times 2.
20.
How do I write this with the correct units?
Stephen is
20 years old.
20 years old.
Again, if you want to write me a sentence, I'm fine with that. It will make your English teacher proud.
Yeah.
Any questions? There are none. 1 and 2, I want you to get done and bring those to me. That's a daily grade.
Okay.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
I'm not doing them. You're doing it. Goodness. Got some marbles loose upstairs. I ain't doing that. What's important for us to mark here? Kendra bought 4 copies of the same book. So, if you didn't underline, underline that. If you didn't highlight that. What else is important?
Her total was $50.
Her total was $50. What question are we trying to answer?
What was the
Price
price?
of each book.
Shouldn't your price and your variable, well, your question and your variable match?
Yes.
Yes. So what variable are we using?
X.
X is fine. What should X represent?
Lost price.
Price of what? Of books. Or just the book, right? So, how would I set up this equation?
4x.
Thank you. So if I saw that, I know what was going on. But the question here is, if you don't know what this means, you did not understand what I said about correct units on letter C. Because if you notice, some people that have that green handwriting on there, you saw me writing in some stuff that you were missing. Context. So, looking at B, how do I solve that? How do I solve B?
Divide on both sides.
So what's being brought down?
X equals
And then what's being typed in?
50 divided by 4.
Everybody type that in. I don't know what was going on in the water when people typed this in, but it was not it. I don't know what was going on.
I got 12.5.
Y'all got what?
12.5.
12 point what? Why did I add that 0 there? 50 cents.
Oh, yeah.
Because isn't price written as money?
Yeah.
So how do I write this?
$12.50
Uh-huh.
per book.
Per book. Any questions?
I didn't want to write it as a mixed number because
Why would you write it as a mixed number? What grade are we in, baby?
as 12.50 I was going to put it as a fraction. I was like, wait, that's not spicy.
Exactly. When have you ever seen a price like that? Okay? I just want us all to take a minute. When have we seen it? We haven't seen that. Okay? I'm glad you did your context clues. I saw where your fraction was on there. So I saw your thought process. Any questions?
No.
Someone else read number 2.
I got you. GameStop charged me $9.50 membership. $32 charge for every game rent. Without tax, the total for one customer was $21.50. How many games were rented?
What's important here?
Charge
Charge is a
$8.
Uh-huh.
And
Plus
it's
the
free
fee of $2
For,
for every game rented.
thank you. Then,
For
The
one
total for
customer,
one customer is $16.
what question?
How many games will
What variable
it's
X?
works for me? What does it
the
represent?
games rented.
How do I set up this equation?
9.50 plus 2x equals 21.
What told you 9.50 was going to be our constant?
Because that's just the membership by itself.
That's the membership on its own. Do membership fees ever change?
No.
No, they stay the same. Most people set this up correctly, but what happened with the solving? I don't know. Let's see. What's the first step I need to do?
Minus 9.50.
Thank you.
And bring down 2x.
Uh-huh. What's 21.50 minus 9.50?
12.
12. Nope, because 50 minus 50 is 0.
0.
So what happens next?
Divided on both sides.
Okay.
2 cancel out, so
So 6 what?
your games are rented.
Now, were these too complicated questions? No. Now, I'm going to help you with 3 and 4 with the time that we have, so which means the quicker we can get it done, the less you have to do. So, Tyler is traveling to Baltimore, Maryland, and a taxi company charges a flat fee of $3 for using the taxi plus 75 cents per mile. The total for Tyler's trip is $15. How many miles did Tyler travel? What's important information?
Fee of $3.
Charges a flat fee of $3.
Uh-huh.
Tax.
Taxi
plus
plus
0.75.
Uh-huh.
The
Mm-hmm.
total for Tyler's trip is $15. And the question is, how many miles did Tyler travel?
So what variable are we using?
X.
What does it represent?
How many miles?
Miles per hour.
Number of miles, or miles traveled, right? Number of miles or miles traveled. How would I set up this equation?
$3 plus 0.75x equals 50.
Absolutely. What told me 0.75 was going to be the coefficient? Per. Thank you. Flat fee means will it ever change? No. So how do I solve this?
Minus 3 on both sides.
Perfect. What's being brought down?
0.75x equals 13 and 12.
15 minus 3 is?
12.
Thank you. Then what do I do from here?
Divide 0.75 on both sides.
Cross it out. What's brought down?
X equals
And we're typing it 12 divided by 0.75. You cannot BS it. Please type it in. Please. We struggle with less. What'd y'all get?
16.
How do I write this with correct units?
16 miles traveled.
16 miles or 16 miles traveled. Any questions there?
Nope.
Any at all?
You.
Number 4, the number of parts in inventory, P, minus 54 parts sold is 320. How many parts were in inventory? So, what's important here?
54 sold.
The number of parts.
The number of parts. Why is this important right now?
It's kind of telling you the total.
Uh-uh.
Not the total. How many parts do we have for general?
Not quite. You're skipping over stuff.
How many parts do we have for
You said
inventory?
P minus?
Where'd you get P from?
Parts
Parts.
in inventory.
Thank you. Did they let you choose what variable you wanted?
No.
No, they gave it to you.
So you put B.
Yeah.
P, and what does it represent?
Parts in inventory.
Parts in inventory. Now we can finish marking the rest, correct?
Mhm.
What else is important?
Minus 54 parts.
Uh-huh.
Sold is 320. 320.
Uh-huh.
So 50.
4 plus
No, it's P minus 54.
Thank you. I don't see a from or a than anywhere, so nothing should be flipped.
Equals 320.
There we go. How do I solve this?
Plus 54 both sides.
Thank you. What's being brought down?
P equals.
What's being typed in?
320 plus 54.
Thank you. Everybody type that in.
320.
Plus 54.
Don't say nothing about
What'd y'all get?
it. 374.
So how would I write this?
374.22.
There we go. And all you have are 4 more to do. Any questions?
No.
You already know what's up. Do your practice problems. That's how you actually get 100 on notes. It's completion. Any questions?
No.
Due on Friday. Handle your business.